A police officer opens a box. Inside, a necklace, a lock of hair, a photo with a red smudge, all taken from victims, all kept by one man. What kind of person commits murder and then needs something to remember it? Tonight on Hidden Triggers, we're going inside one of the most disturbing patterns in violent crime, souvenir collecting. Why some killers just can't let go. This isn't just about evidence, it's about psychology, identity, fantasy, control. It starts with intention. A trophy is something you show. A souvenir is something you need. Trophies are external, like a hunter mounting the head of a deer. Souvenirs are internal, kept close, hidden, sometimes even worshipped. Take Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He stole jewelry, left messages, posed bodies. His trophies screamed power. Compare that to Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. He didn't show off, he archived, stored, hid photos and underwear from his victims to revisit in solitude. Psychologists draw a clear line. Trophies are about narcissism. Souvenirs? That's about obsession. And obsession is far more dangerous. Because it doesn't need an audience. It just needs memory. For some killers, the murder isn't the end. It's the beginning of something they plan to replay again and again. Souvenirs become a gateway, a way to reignite the emotions of the crime. The smell of a shirt, the texture of hair, a photo, a moment frozen. Dennis Rader didn't just keep items. He wrote detailed journals, drew crime scene sketches from memory, and photographed himself reenacting what he did to his victims. Why? Because the feeling faded, and he couldn't tolerate that. It's what psychologists call a behavioral loop, a ritual of control, domination, fantasy. But unlike spontaneous violence, this is structured addiction. Souvenirs become the needle. And eventually, just reliving isn't enough. They need another fix. In sexually motivated murders, the souvenir often becomes a fetish object, part of the killer's sexual identity. Jerry Brudos, for example, kept dozens of women's shoes, bras, and dresses, not for resale or disguise, but for stimulation. He would dress in them, pose with mannequins, and reenact the murder scenes. Here, the souvenir isn't a memory. It's a trigger, something that turns violent domination into arousal. This is where we cross into the realm of fetishized violence. The object becomes sacred, not because of what it is, but because of what happened when it was taken. And once an object becomes sexualized, it becomes untouchable in the killer's mind. For some killers, souvenirs aren't memories. They're part of the ritual. Certain objects are arranged before each murder. Others are taken afterward and kept, not just for reliving the act, but as sacred tools in a twisted routine. Think of Edmund Kemper. He didn't just kill. He kept the heads of his victims and talked to them, over meals, during the day, like they were still alive. It wasn't just about domination. It was companionship on his terms. The object becomes more than a reminder. It becomes a spell, a way for the killer to reshape reality, to preserve the moment where they had total control. Psychologists call this ritualized behavior, repeated, controlled, emotionally charged. And just like in religion, breaking the ritual causes distress. So they stick to it, object by object, kill by kill. But what happens when that sacred object becomes the very thing that brings a killer down? That's what happened to Joel Rifkin. He couldn't stop collecting items from his victims, jewelry, clothes, IDs, all stored in his mother's garage. When police finally searched his home, they found a chilling catalog of his crimes, all because he couldn't throw them away. Why not? Because the souvenir becomes part of the killer's identity. It's not just what they did, It's who they are. Even when it puts them at risk, they'd rather keep the object than live without it. It's a compulsive need. And in the end, it's often what breaks the cycle, because the obsession outweighs logic. So what do souvenirs really reveal? They show us the way killers build their inner world, through objects, repetition, control. But they also force us to ask a harder question. Is this just evil? Or is it a twisted version of a very human urge, the need to hold on to meaning? Because here's the uncomfortable part. We collect too. We binge murder documentaries. We buy killer merch. We turn real victims into Netflix episodes and TikTok edits. Is that our version of a souvenir? It's easier to point at them. But maybe some part of us is drawn to the darkness, not to celebrate it, but to understand it. Souvenirs aren't just proof of a crime. They're proof of obsession, of ritual, of how far a person will go to hold on to control or fantasy. So ask yourself, what's more disturbing? The act of murder or the need to remember it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more true crime that doesn't stop at the facts, subscribe. Because here on Hidden Triggers, we don't just ask what happened, we ask why.